Hello, good evening, and welcome everyone to another live stream. So first of all, a big thank you for everyone who's going to turn up to watch this stream tonight. And I'm really pleased. We got a really special guest this evening, and I'm going to introduce him in a second to you. But before I do that, we do have to go through the formalities. Namely, if you're watching this on Facebook, share and like it. If you're watching it on YouTube, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell. We do those things, please. If you want to find social media links to all my other channels, they're down below in the description. Make sure you're following me over there. If you like what you're hearing, thumbs up. If you don't like what you're hearing, just shh. Moving on. And finally, if you want to help us out, help the channel, go to altnewsmedia.net/donate. Do all those things, please. And then the other thing to do, by the way, is we do have super chats enabled. So if you want your point to be brought to the attention of myself and our special guest, then just hit a super chat and that should enable that. So I think that's pretty much the formalities. So we last evening on the stream, folks, you'll know that I spoke about the American election and not just the election, but Donald Trump's appearance at the CPAC a couple of nights ago and the speech that he made, which I thought was really, really interesting. And so I wanted to explore in much more depth this issue of Trump, his reemergence. Well, he hadn't really gone away, had he, on the US political scene. I wanted to do that. And the guy that I wanted to discuss it with is a chap which some of you may have heard of. He's very well known across in the States. He's well known on Twitter. His name is Pastor Brown, Pastor Rodney Brown. So Rodney, I've done a stream with Rodney before on a different channel, but I wanted to bring him on here to this channel so you could meet him and hear what he has to say, because he's a really interesting chap. I wanted to play a short video before I bring Rodney on. I want to show you a clip of Rodney in action about a year ago. Rodney can correct me if I'm wrong. Can we play the video, please?
They don't want us to do this, but just turn around and greet 2 or 3 people. Tell them you love them. Jesus loves them. Amen. Listen, this has to be the safest place. I said this has to be the safest place. If you cannot be safe in church, you're in serious trouble. We are not stopping anything. I got news for you. This church will never close. The only time the church is closed is when the rapture's taking place. This Bible school is open because we're raising up revivalists, not pansies.
That was Rodney in action in his church. I think it was last March. And by the way, the consequence of that is in the next slide, if we just bring it up. Yeah, Florida Pastor Rodney Brown was arrested for holding 2 large services. And then you get the usual whining from the COVID bedwetters. But anyway, Rodney showed his mettle. He showed his mettle since. It's a real pleasure to bring him onto the stream. So please join me in welcoming Pastor Rodney Brown. Rodney, you're very welcome to the stream.
Hey, David. Obviously, you guys are doing amazing, and I get to watch quite a few of your broadcasts that you've been doing. So thank you for your voice across Europe and around the world. So we really appreciate you.
Yeah, thank you, Rodney. Thank you, Rodney. The thing is, what I wanted to chat to you about, particularly, Rodney, is we've gone through a tumultuous couple of months. I think the last time we spoke was running up to the US presidential election. And what happened. And because we're on Facebook and YouTube, Rodney, we can't talk too much about that because they're all ears, as you know. But the fact is, it was a very disappointing result. Certainly, like yourself, I wanted Trump back in the White House. But fate or events always kind of work out. And I watched Donald Trump 2 nights ago at CPAC making a speech, which I'm going to play a little bit. Let's just play a very short clip of his speech, Rodney, and then I want your thoughts. Play, President, this little clip.
His campaign was all lies, talked about energy. I said, this guy actually, he's okay with energy. He wasn't okay with energy. He wants to put you all out of business. He's not okay with energy. He wants windmills, the windmills that don't work when you need them. Joe Biden has had the most disastrous first month of any president in modern history. That's true. Already the Biden administration has proven that they are anti-jobs, anti-family, anti-borders, anti-energy, anti-women, and anti-science. In just one short month, we have gone from America first to America last. You think about it, right? America last.
And there it is, Rodney. I thought it was a terrific speech. What did you think?
I thought he did great. I'm still trying to work out actually what's happening. To be honest with you, I think we haven't even seen President Biden in over 3 days. The whole of Washington is still on lockdown. Looks like a giant prison. There's a lot of things that still don't add up. I think with the last time we talked on the show, nothing added up. So it's almost like even though Biden won, they lost. And even though Trump lost, it looks like he won. I can't put my finger on it. It's like kind of bizarre in a way. That sounded to me like another campaign speech, like he was still campaigning, and he seemed chilled. He seemed relaxed. I don't know. There's a lot of things happening in America right now that to me, I just don't add up. Don't add up.
Well, yeah. I think, Rodney, that it sounded like a campaign speech to me. That's how I interpret it. He hit so many trigger points. And the other thing about it is, Rodney, I think Trump's 74, but, he seemed very dynamic on stage, very virile. And if you compare that to Biden, who already looks completely, hollowed out, hiding, and he's still hiding in his in the White House basement, it seems to me, the contrast for American people cannot be greater at this point in time. A dynamic Trump who seems to be really on the issues, and Biden who, as you say, Rodney, I don't even know where he is or how he can continue as president. If this is after a month, he seems incapable of speech.
What I'm hearing from the inside, and this is of course not verified, but that once a week, Walter Reed Hospital closes everything down, and Marine One flies in there, and Biden comes in there for 1 day, and then they send him back. So I don't know if they give him a blood transfusion. I don't know what. We can't even put our finger on what's going on. So there's a lot of stuff you're hearing. I know that number 2 from Homeland Security was down in Orlando, Florida, and told friends of mine, they said, whatever you see happening in D.C. is not happening. It's all an illusion. It's all smoke and mirrors. So there's so much going on. Again, I've never seen a time like this. It's almost like Biden is just a figurehead or puppet, but there's other people behind the scenes running everything, as you see what's happening with Syria right now, and just everything being stirred up again in the Middle East. With Trump, no military activity for 4 years. And now suddenly we've got troops in Syria and just crazy stuff that's happening. So gas prices here in the States is going up through the roof. But if you heard Trump talking, he was still talking about the economy and how I was like, okay, there's 2 worlds going on here. The one is the world of Biden and Kamala and the media, and the other one is the world of Trump. Which world are we actually living in? So it's a crazy. Again, I'm speechless. Really, when I look at it, I just shake my head, and I just throw up my hands and just say, I don't know what's going on. People have asked me from all over. I said, look, I don't know. Don't know.
Yeah, it's certainly, Rodney, from our point of view, this side of the Atlantic, what we see is Biden gets into the White House. He starts signing these executive orders at a hyperspeed rate of knots. So it's government by fiat in these first number of months. But by the same token, the guy who's signing the orders doesn't really seem to be connected with what he's doing. So, before this, a lot of people said he is a puppet. He's been installed as a puppet. Other people are pulling his strings. Is that how you say it?
Yeah, to me, it was like the industrial military complex took control, like the deep state took control of the whole government. And basically, they're using Biden as a figurehead, and they're just going ahead and doing. I think there's things happening that Biden doesn't even know they happen. He has no control over. So, in some ways, we felt like maybe the military took over. We didn't know. We were trying to ask ourselves: did Trump sign the Insurrection Act? Did the military take over? What is actually going on? We couldn't put our finger. How come Kamala is talking to world leaders when really that's the job of the president? So, the first month, I'm focused on many different things, and I kind of just been laughing at Washington and laughing at the media because it's just, and then I watch CPAC, and then you watch all of these conservatives going in there, and they're all living in la-la land, a lot of them, and they're all like, oh, we're going to do a comeback in 22, and then in 24, who's going to run for it? And I'm going, you guys don't seem to understand what just happened. If the most powerful person in the world, Donald J. Trump, and against the establishment, against mainstream media, against the deep state, could not pull off a successful win, okay, he lost, as you and I know, wink, wink, okay? If he couldn't pull off a total win, then who do these people think they are that they're going to craft a comeback? They're going to take the Congress and they take the Senate, and there's going to be a Republican nominee. I mean, they're delusional. It is not happening.
Well, see, Rodney, it's really interesting you say that because I think exactly the same as you. I hear all the words, and a lot of the words are good, but your point is the fundamental point. What we saw in 2020 can be repeated in 2022 and 2024, and indeed actually ad infinitum. So it's like the Republican, the GOP, seems to be in sort of denial as to what actually happened. Is that what you would think? Do you think?
The GOP, first of all, they didn't understand. They actually thought that they won all of those congressional seats and the senatorial seats, which they did not lose, which that was a huge miracle. They thought they won it because they were GOP. They didn't realize they won it on the strength of Trump. Regardless of whether people felt that there was fraud or no fraud, the fact of the matter is that, did you see the crowds lining the streets for President Trump? Just on 2 days ago, I mean, it was like huge. You would have thought so. The GOP is in total denial. I mean, if they think that people that support Trump are going to vote for them, it's not happening. It is not happening. I know the president said there won't be a third party and all of that kind of stuff. And I know that he's supporting even nominees now that actually voted for his impeachment and stuff like that. I have no clue what's even going on with him. So, look, I throw up my hands and I just think it's a joke. The whole thing is a political satire joke.
Well, yeah, you see, Rodney, it's really interesting what you say. I mean, I think these are hard-hitting facts you're putting out there, but I think they're very valid. For me, and I'm not even an American, right? But Trump was betrayed by a big chunk of his own party, like he was. And I'm not just talking about the Mitch McConnells of this world and the Liz Cheneys of this world. It was a widespread betrayal, and yet there he is back, and he's suggesting that there won't be a MAGA party; it will be the one party. Now, maybe that's pragmatic. I mean, you could argue he's just being a pragmatist. If you create a third party, you conquer, you divide, and you will be conquered. But there's a certain unreality about it, as you point out, isn't there?
Not only that, I mean, the left is on a hell-bent destruction of the United States. So what will be left in 2 years' time? Will there be anything left to even salvage? I mean, it's like warp factor 1 on signing everything. Like, how crazy can you even get? I mean, talk about transgender. It goes on and on. This thing the House just passed last week, which was H.R. 5 on the Equality Act and what they're planning to do. I mean, it's beyond the pale. It's like everything's on acceleration. It's like whatever Obama did in 8 years, they want to do in 3 months. And I think it's going to backfire, and I don't think they're going to get done what they want to accomplish, but I don't think it's going to be done through the GOP. I don't think it's going to be done through Congress or the Senate or the executive branch or the Supreme Court or the deep state. I think the American people are waking up to what's going on, and I think they're going to dig in deep and they're going to put their foot down. So they all of the powers that be can expect a backlash that's going to come from total basically people are just going to say we ain't doing any of that stuff. So you can vote whatever you want to. You can do by illegal fiat. You can run a country, but we are not complying. And that's what I see going to happen to tens upon tens of millions of people. So how that's going to play out in the next 2 to 4 years, I don't know. But it's not going to be what they think. The American people, you can push them so far. And I'm not talking about civil war. I'm not talking about armed conflict. I'm just talking about people just saying, no. I heard this now, just before coming on your show, that the governor of the state of Texas just opened the whole state and no mask mandate. And that's the governor of the state of Texas that was dragging his heels. And so, but of course, you've got the liberal counties or the liberal cities with the mayors that going to buck the system. That's what we're even dealing with in Florida. I got thrown out of a store on Saturday. I went to go buy a pair of sunglasses, and they said to me, "You got to wear a mask." I said, "No, I'm immune from the virus." And I said, they said, "Well, you have to leave because we got other customers here." And I didn't even feel like arguing with the guy. I wanted to say, you're in violation of the governor of the state of Florida, who's already declared that mask mandates are done away with. But it's a national chain. And so I just felt, I'm just leaving. And I walked out. I didn't even say anything and just left. So I didn't buy the sunglasses, but I left. So anyway, it's crazy what's happening, but that's the way it is.
I think Rodney, one of our regulars here on the stream, City Troll, who's someone I know from Pennsylvania, he actually echoes your very point. He says right now the GOP can't win anything. It's the people that have to fix it, although he doesn't see how the people are going to fix it. But I think this is one of the difference, between America and the UK. In America, there's still a belief in the power of the people to change stuff. Here in the nanified, supine UK, we still look to Boris and the government, and who are a bunch of globalist chills, by the way. So we're looking to entirely the wrong place. But I would hope that American people, can find a way to deal with what's happening, because it seems to me, Rodney, again, just a thought, that America is being pushed towards techno-socialism, communism. Is that how you would say it?
There's no doubt. We were talking about this yesterday with a group of people, that there's a radio network that runs across Cuba to basically show the evils of communism. that's being funded by the U.S. government right now, and it's been for many years. And they broadcast 24/7. It's an American propaganda thing against communism, and they're doing that across Cuba, while in America they're pushing communism. So you're watching this it's like the world of the insane. So what I think is going to happen is, and this is happening more and more, where the American people are just saying, we're not doing that. We're not going to obey. We're not obeying. And you're going to see millions of people just not obey. They're just going to be disobedient and not obey. So where that's going to go, I don't know. But I guess we're going to find out.
Yeah. Well, the thing is that, Rodney, like, one of the things that certainly made a huge impact on the election last year was the emergence of the China virus, the COVID-19, and how the media played that and all of that. And we'll not go back over old history, but it nonetheless made a huge difference. And of course, the media portrayed it as it was the Spanish flu brought back, and it was going to wipe out, gazillions of people. And then magically, when Sleepy Joe got into the White House, all of a sudden, there's relaxations going on around the states. And I think the state you're in, Rodney, in Florida, is one of the states that's flourishing the best because of the very sensible policies, by and large, put in place by Governor DeSantis.
No doubt. What we try and encourage local businesses to branch out, like the stores or the shops that are giving the biggest problems are the nationwide chains. So basically, we try and encourage business people here. Like, let's say the one would be a national sunglass place, which I just bumped into that on Saturday. So we try and encourage people start a local sunglass place to get sunglasses that's local, that doesn't adhere to the national chain's policies. So the same will happen with independent restaurants, independent businesses that are not subject to a national chain. And I think that's what you're seeing with North Dakota. They have their own money system with their own private bank. Really, North Dakota has that. I think you're going to see a lot of that happen. And I think where the problem has come about, that the globalists underestimated America. They thought America was one country that they could just ramrod and make a decision, but they didn't understand America is actually 50 countries, 50 different states, and the states are sovereign. So I think with before, when president was running for office, a lot of the governors were playing like on the fence, trying not to be tied with him. But I think now you're going to see the red states are going to go ultra red, and the blue will go ultra blue, and there will be a division in the country along those lines. But that's always been America. It was always the fight along those lines. So I don't believe they're going to get it right. And they're running out of time. I mean, 4 years goes by like snapping your finger. So it's not like, oh, we're going to do this. They'll implement all those things by fiat, but the people are going to resist and just ignore it and just keep going ahead and doing what they need to do. And there'll be lawsuit after lawsuit. And I just see people giving up for the biggest fight you can imagine. And I'm not, again, referring to armed conflict or a civil war kind of situation, because the American people, for the most part, are not violent. They don't want that kind of thing. I mean, they're going to continue to stir up, the stuff they can with Antifa and Black Lives Matter. But for the most part, that'll just be in the liberal leftist areas. But that's not going to happen in an ultra-red state where the people are heavily armed, and they're just not going to do it. It's just not happening.
Yeah. Well, the thing is that, American resistance, American peaceful resistance is going to be so crucial, because so many other parts of the world, Rodney, unfortunately, have bowed down to globalism, and in particular regard with COVID-19 as a very convenient mechanism to get us all under virtual house arrest. Our economy's ruined. I actually saw a chart earlier today. I should have put it up, Rodney. It was the top 10 global economies and looking at 2020, what their performance was. Now, of all those global economy, the US had only declined by about 3%. So that's testament to the strength of the American economy in 2019, 2020. That's only a 3% decline. The UK was the worst at minus 11%, big double-digit decline. Only one country had shown growth, Rodney. Can you guess which one that might be?
The place where the virus came from.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
No, you're right. You're right, David. I mean, the bottom line is, I think why the American economy is holding is because the American people find a way around the system to trade and continue to do business and do whatever they can. People are very resourceful to when it comes to when doors are shut. They find a way through. They find a way around. And it's much like where I come from. We had to find a way. We had to find a way around the system, and not to do things illegally, but to find there's many loopholes, many loopholes, and those loopholes are being used against American people. Where the American people can look at it and find the loopholes to use it against the system that's now being used against them.
As well, that strikes me is that, as I say, Donald Trump did help build a very prosperous, thriving US economy, which is great to see. And already in a very short number of weeks, we've seen, as you pointed out earlier, Rodney, oil prices have going like that. We've seen all those jobs lost with the Keyline pipeline and all the key pipeline and all that. So we've seen what looks to me as a reversal of the US economic prospects. And that's just in a couple of months. What will that be like in 12 months, 18 months, 24 months?
I'm not really sure right now. We're watching the price of gasoline go through the roof. So, obviously that's because of the pipeline where America was energy independent, totally energy independent. And now suddenly they're pushing all the green, the windmills, which the carbon footprint just to make a windmill, whatever the windmill would generate in energy cannot make up for the carbon footprint of what it even took to create the windmill. And then the windmill breaks and it rusts and it kills the wildlife and the birds and everything. So obviously, as you know, with communism, they don't really care. It doesn't really matter. It's anything that overloads the system, that sucks the life out of the middle class and pushes everything to the upper 1% of the 1%. And then the poor become poorer and the middle class become poor. And you just have this small group of elite that run around. And as you could see what happened with China, where I think they grew the most billionaires last year in the world were grown in China.
Rodney, I'm just going to put the chart up. This is what I was talking about a minute ago. Global economic growth 2020. And you can see there that the US actually, despite everything, did, relatively speaking, okay. It did almost much better than Germany, better than Japan, much better than European countries like France, Italy, and even across in India. It's great. And of course, there we are in the UK, absolutely bringing up the back of the pack. So economic performance in 2020 was decent, but the fundamentals that undermine the US economy are being taken away by Sleepy Joe, aren't they? And that will have consequences, won't it?
Yes, I do believe. I think each state has a way of securing their own economy. Like the thing that we have for us here in Florida is that we have to, by law, have a balanced budget amendment. So the state of Florida is not in debt. They have to, by law, balance their budget. So any state that has that is going to be secure financially. And then also setting up the trading within its own borders and then working with other states that have like minds. Where the problem comes is if a state is indebted to the federal system, where they took 10 billion from the Fed to build a high-speed railroad or whatever. That's where the problem's going to come for the states that are dependent upon federal money, because if you don't comply, we stop your next payment, So, as I'm looking at this whole thing, I'm thinking, okay, yeah, we got Florida that has a population bigger than New York now, and that is basically almost like an independent country, even though it's not. But we have to, everybody said, oh, Ron DeSantis should run for president in 2024. I said, no, we need him to be governor of the state of Florida. We don't need him as president. We just need to secure each state right now before we even try to worry about salvaging what's left of America from a federal point of view,
One of the things that amused me was I see they passed, the Democrats passed through what's called the Pelosi payoff, where it's a 3 trillion or whatever bill to help on COVID. And 9% of it, Rodney, is spent on COVID health spending. The other 91% is pure pork being aimed at those bankrupt Democrat states, aimed at the unions, aimed at Planned Parenthood, all of these things, So it's like, having gone on about it for almost a year, the Democrats couldn't care less really about COVID, from my point of view.
No, it's almost like it disappeared, and then of course Biden gets in and said there's not enough vaccines, and look, the whole thing is bizarre. Like I said to you when we started the program, it's like watching political satire. And so whatever is political satire, and there's a site, I know you follow them on Twitter, probably Babylon B, but there's a lot of things that they kid about that actually is real. It's real, So, all you can do is really laugh, because if you didn't, you just start to cry, because you can't believe that people have lost their minds. It's like welcome to the world of the insane asylum, where the patients are now in charge.
Yeah, absolutely right, Rodney. It really is. And I think actually, if you laugh at it, it stops you from being crushed by it. Because the other thing I find is, if you avoid the mainstream media, that's a very healthy thing to do as well. Certainly here in the UK, the mainstream media is toxic. It's cancer. It's poison. And like the US media, and I'm not sure what your views on Fox are, but if you leave Fox to one side, the other media who have adopted such a kid gloves approach to Biden that it's amusing, isn't it? Tough questions like, what's your favorite color, Mr. President? Honestly, the US media is such a disgrace.
I tell you what I do see. I've shut off all media. The only thing I see are the Twitter headlines, which if you follow me on Twitter, all I do is mock them all the time. But I do see the media starting to get a little irritated now with Biden administration. So that's something that I saw a turn happen just this last week, and they started to question certain things. So I think even the media is starting to say, okay, we've played now long. You are now president. What's going on over here? So there are some journalists starting to, even leftist journalists, that are starting to question some things. They're saying, okay, we've played a long time now, but we want to know what's going on. And I can't imagine what you guys have to live through in the UK. It must be horrendous. I can just imagine you sitting watching your television, screaming at it, or throwing your shoe at it,
Well, Rodney, because for that very reason, I would under no circumstances watch our media. It is disgraceful. But you're right. You are right. Actually, I think the U.S. media, they got Joe into the White House, And then they thought he would probably govern maybe like an Obama-esque president. But the point is, there's radicals behind him. He doesn't know what day of the week it is. So how long do you think, Rodney, it will be before he is shuffled off the stage and Kamala becomes the incumbent of 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue?
I mean, I probably think it could happen maybe by May, that Biden's moved out of the way. I mean, the bottom line is, I mean, they haven't seen him. I don't know what his activities are today, but they haven't seen him in 4 days, nearly 4 days, unless he popped up today somewhere. But for the most part, he calls it, pulls the plug on the day at 8 o'clock in the morning. And he just, I don't know. I mean, he even said it, remember, on television when they were interviewing him, he said, there are days I wake up and I tell Jill, where the hell are we? So, I mean, how, you know? And look, Biden, let me say this. Biden is a politician. Biden's been doing this for 47 years. So Biden has been in the White House for 8 years. Think about it. He was around Obama. So he knows all of how the game is played and stuff like that. But I think the media are, here's another thing too. When you look at the White House, there's certain things that are questionable, like even the security at the White House doesn't seem to be like it's normal for when the president is there. Plus, I still, as of yet, have never seen Biden climb on the Big Daddy Air Force One yet. I've only seen Biden climb on a vice presidential State Department plane. So I'm still trying to work out in my mind what in the world is going on. And I just look at it and just shake my head, shrug my shoulders, throw my hands up, and just laugh. That's all I can do at this juncture.
Yeah, well, that's as I say, Rodney. I think that's a very healthy way of doing it. It helps you cope with it and keep perspective as well. But I do think that President Kamala will come along a lot quicker because Biden's cognitive decline it's actually sad to see it in a way. You know, no one delights in seeing anybody lose their ability to think and to speak and to respond. Although happily he's got Dr. Jill Biden, the First Lady, to step in when he forgets which day of the week it is and what he's supposed to say. But the double act can't carry on. I agree. I thought it would last to 2022. Haven't seen him, Rodney. I can't see how it could even get to 2022.
No, impossible. That's why, I mean, I actually gave it March, April, another 8 weeks. They might be able to play shuffleboard, but I don't know. Let's see what happens. I mean, as you know, as I said earlier, she's already making calls, talking to other world leaders and stuff like that, when really, in a sense, it's not her job. It's his job to do, you know. But I mean, when you're incapacitated, you can't really do that.
No, I agree. When he's sleeping, he's probably not in a position to do very much. Can I just say hello, Rodney? We've got people on the stream from as far away as Hawaii, as Hawaii, and Donny Girl is one of our regulars. So thanks very much for joining the stream. Pastor Rodney Brown, Donny Girl, I'm very pleased as our special guest tonight. I think one of the most sane voices I've heard that your side of the pond. And also, by the way, Rodney is a very prolific author. I would really recommend. Rodney kindly sent me a couple of his books, which I've been making my way through them. The Killing of Uncle Sam is a very, very good, slightly disturbing but truthful book, Rodney, which actually, when you read what you've timetabled in that book, what we see shouldn't really surprise us that much, should it?
Not at all, because what people don't realize is we're actually up against a system that's in place, regardless of who. The names of the world leaders change, but the system's still there. The system is still in place. And that's what people don't understand. You know, of course, I preach the gospel. The Bible says, unless an axe is laid to the root of the tree, you can't do anything about it. So basically, people are just watching the fruit, hoping that the fruit of the tree is going to change, but it can't, because the tree can't produce good fruit. It's an evil, wicked system that is in place, and that system has to be dismantled. So, and of course, having traveled to 85 countries over 41 years, I see the same system everywhere. There's no difference. There is no difference. But let me just say this on the positive side, David. There is a whole group of people that are coming together now with new platforms, which when I share with you privately what is going to happen here, even the next month or so, you're going to be shocked, David. Listen, I'm talking about broadcasting. I'm talking about communication. I'm talking about the ability to speak to one another worldwide without being intercepted. This technology that they've been working on for 25 years, people are coming out the woodwork. And I've got people contacting me from all across America. And we've got this technology, we've got that technology. So I believe that what you're going to find, what you always find is a way around the opposition. I mean, that's why we got the Grand Canyon. So the Grand Canyon, how did that come about? It was water carved a way through the rock and the granite and whatever. And so wherever there's liberty, water represents life or liberty or freedom. And wherever liberty or freedom is, people are going to find a way. Like, I'm just really praying for the UK. I'm praying for Canada. I'm praying for the EU and certain countries right now that have totally thrown in the towel, acquiesced, capitulated to the globalist system, that the people, the local people, will stand up and just draw a line in the sand and say enough is enough, which I understand there's going to be ramifications. I understand all of that. But I just think by the sheer weight of millions of people standing up, there's nothing anybody can do. They don't have enough people to police everybody. They don't have enough people to monitor everybody. They don't have enough people to watch everybody's text or broadcast or whatever. And especially with new technologies that's coming around, they're not going to stop. I promise you. I'm actually very excited. I have more excitement and optimism about this time right now, even though on the one side it looks bleak, and we hear daily news happenings of the bizarre and the insane. I feel that there are things that are going to happen that's going to literally shock everybody. So, hey, that's the way I see it.
Well, we've definitely got to hang in there, Rodney. And, you'll be familiar with an expression that we have in Northern Ireland, which is no surrender. And we don't surrender, and we don't give up, and we won't be bullied, and we won't be shut up, and we won't be put in our place. Absolutely right. I mean, I think those virtues that are in my DNA and are in your DNA, Rodney, those are the things that I think that the big tech platforms and the big bullies, they can't take that away from us, can they?
Not at all, because there's an advancement in technology. And if I told you right now what is going to come out here in the next year, it's going to shock you. I promise you, it's going to shock you. The ability to communicate globally without being censored. They'll have to switch the internet off. That's the only way. They'll have to totally shut down the internet. But there's a way around every obstacle. One of the things I always say, which is very funny to me, back in 1900, I think it was 1906, the head of the patent office in New York City, he came out and he made an announcement. He said, please, he wants to request that nobody else submit a new patent for a new invention, because everything that is invented has already been invented. And of course, How many know that from 1906 to now? So watch when MySpace came about. Then that didn't last long. Facebook, let me tell you, is already in the death throes right now. It's a dying entity because it has so much fake on there and there's so many bots on there. The same thing's going to happen with YouTube. I know there's people don't want to hear what I'm saying, but I promise you, I predict that in the next 3 to 5 years, we won't be using those platforms. There's going to be new platforms outside of the system that no one's going to be able to control. David, I'm telling you, I'm very excited, and I see this happening, and I'm speaking from inside knowledge of what people have in their hands that's going to bypass the system. That's all I can tell you.
Yeah, well, the thing is, Rodney, technology, modern technology is amazing. And I agree that platforms like Facebook, for example, and indeed Twitter is another one. I mean, as you know, I am banned. I am the Voldemort of Twitter. My name must never be said on that platform. But I think the power and influence of those tech platforms is waning, and that's just the normal way of things. Things grow and then they decline, and such is the way of the world. So there will be newer technology comes along, and that will help people like you and me and the people on the stream to get information, things that we can't even talk about here, Rodney, because as you say, on this channel that I'm broadcasting on, certain things must not be spoken either. But we will find ways around them. So I think it's good to be optimistic about it.
Well, I already have the information. I already know the technologies. I already know what's coming. And I'm so excited about it. So all I can tell you, my friend, get ready, because whatever we have our hands on, I'll make available to you and to anybody that's listening. And we should be able to do some of this in the next 3 to 6 months. It's going to be huge. It's going to be big.
Yeah, well, I think, Rodney, that the thing is that as we sit here in March 2021, there's so much that lies ahead, and there's going to be so much change. And I always embrace change. Change is a good thing, and the world doesn't stay. Well, in some ways it does stay the same, actually, but in other ways it doesn't. But I sincerely hope that we can continue to find these ways, Rodney, and use channels to get information out there so people can make their own decisions. I never want to tell anyone how to think. I only want to give them facts, and then they can make their own minds up, So that's going to be a good thing. And hopefully the American people will have a renaissance, Rodney, that gets America back or into some sort of better shape anyway, because after years of Democrat rule, I would fear for what it would look like. And the other thing is, which we haven't really talked about, is China. We talked about the China virus, but I'm worried, Rodney. One of my big worries is China is I've said this on social media. I think China is now directing US policy.
There's no question. I mean, there's no question they've done that. They've took over Hollywood. They've taken over the music industry. They've taken over the sports world. But again, I think China's going to have its own set of problems because its central bank is doing what the Fed took 100 years to do. Their central bank's doing in 10. So China's going to have its own set of problems here in the next 3 years that it brings upon itself. And here's another thing too. There's a lot of Chinese that don't want the Chinese system. I mean, there's probably 200-300 million people that have had it. They are done. And these are Chinese inside of China. So unless China kills 300 million people, I don't know what they're going to do. So I just think I see everything starting to backfire. I'm not concerned. I saw Israel now is going with the vaccine passports, and I saw pictures of beaches where they're sitting areas where it says only reserved for vaccinated people. I think Israel's going to destroy its whole tourism industry, which is shocking to me, but I see that happening. I see Canada gone totally insane of every other country. I've never seen such draconian measures instituted by any nation in the free world than what Canada is doing right now. The UK is obviously following in the footsteps of that, but there are areas in the UK and there are pockets in the UK that are not. So there's life left in the old England still yet. Not everybody's dead and gone, and I think basically, let's see what the next 2-3 months do. I think, people are trying to get the sports back, cricket, rugby, all of that kind of stuff. And there's certain players and that are actually drawing the line in the sand. I saw one of the headlines was that one of the top Olympians is not going to take a vaccine and he's going to compete. So I don't know how that's happening right now. But I think we're going to see a lot of pushback. And again, people are going to have to decide, okay, what is going to happen if we push back against the pushback? And that's what I see taking place. Yeah, so.
Yeah, well, for sure, Rodney, the whole, I'm very disappointed in what I see happening in Israel. I've seen the embrace of vaccination, and I did share some stats on one of my channels about it. Since the Israeli population started to get vaccinated in early December, Rodney, and if you look at what happens, the death rate, the case fatality rate for over 80s has doubled. So there's that's happened, and then as you say, we've now got Israel introducing a form of apartheid between people who get vaccinated and people who choose not to get vaccinated. And I've always supported Israel in a lot of ways, but now I find myself getting very cold when I see some of these things that Israel's doing.
There's no question, and I don't know to what extent the whole of the Middle East is going to fall to that, because I just can't see the Middle East. Maybe they will, but maybe they won't. I can't see everybody in the Middle East just saying, okay, that's what we're going to do. That's what we're going to, So one of the things that I'm noticing across Africa is that, like, of course, South Africa is still in a mess because of the government taking so much money from the globalists to do the forced vaccines. But I see a lot of South Africans standing up, putting their foot down. But from Zambia, Zimbabwe is, of course, in a major problem. But from Zambia, I got friends in Zambia. They said they cannot find coronavirus in Zambia, and partly because people have been on the anti-malarial stuff for years, and everything's normal in Zambia. Yes, you come in, they do test, but nobody even really worries too much about it. All the markets are at full operation. Everybody's operating. And then you go up north through Africa. There's still whole African nations that are functioning. So, I mean, obviously, there are certain ones that are free from a globalist control. And the Africans are drawing a line in the sand saying, no, we're not doing that anymore. So,
just on that, South Africa. So we had scare stories about the dreaded South African mutant version, which was used to encourage more fear in the UK, without, as far as I could see, any empirical evidence behind it. But as I understand it, South Africa itself has its things are getting much more back to normal. Is that?
Yeah, that's true. That's totally true. What's taking place right now. You can see it happening with people starting to put their foot down, like I said, which is something that would happen. They're just drawing a line in the sand and saying, no, we're not doing that anymore. Plus, a lot of the farmers and people there had got a hold of ivermectin. I think it's ivermectin, they call it, which is really a deworming thing for cattle, which kills coronavirus and kills it. So, 2 tablets of ivermectin per year shuts everything down concerning coronavirus. So crazy indeed. And I mean, I again, David, I just don't think that it's going to work out the way that the globalists have planned. And I might be wrong on this. If I'm wrong, then I'm wrong. But I just don't think it's going to work out the way that the globalists had planned. So it's going to be interesting. I think 2021 is going to be a very interesting year to watch how things unfold. Again, I'm not, I don't have any faith in the political system at all, and especially in the conservative neocon think tanks that think they're going to craft a comeback for 2022. I just don't see that happening. I'm laughing and just like, I think it's a joke. So.
Yeah. So sorry about that, Rodney. I temporarily dropped off my own stream, but I'm back. And hello to Anna, another one of our regulars here. So I think as I always say, Rodney, the sun rises afresh every morning, and hope with it. And even though we have dark times and dark moments, and certainly in America through November, December, we saw enough of those. Let's hope that that sun will rise afresh, and let's hope people resist. I mean, I admire the American resistance to the mask wearing, to the what I call the rituals of COVID. I mean, in Britain, too many of my fellow Brits love it. They love putting their mask. I've not worn a mask from day one. I'm not wearing a mask. But so many of my fellow Brits do. And I've got to say, Rodney, I really despise them for it.
Look, it is ridiculous. It's like everybody's a puppet and they just go around. I walk. That's why I don't actually go to malls. I don't even go to stores, because I just say, you're hanging out with these Muppet heads here. I mean, seriously, this is ridiculous. When you have a strong immune system, you're going to be fine. All you can do, again, is shake your head. I mean, what Fauci's saying, you can now hug your family. If you get a vaccination, you can hug your children. I mean, who tells people they're going to hug you? Hey, you can now hug your wife. You can hug your mother. You can hug your grandfather. What? I don't need somebody to tell me to do what I do naturally. So get out of my life. Get out of my wife. Get out of my children. Get out of my grandchildren. I decide my own fate. And that's the way that it is. Again, I am excited. I really am excited. I think we're going to see things turn. And what I'll do is I'll also talk to you privately. I'll give you a call sometime in the next couple of days. Let me know when you're free. And I'll tell you what some of the stuff that we have our hands on and that's coming together. I wish you could come over here for a week. I know that's probably not possible right now with travel and stuff like that, but it would be great if you could come over here and just see what's actually happening. And I think the globalists are in for a surprise.
Well, let's hope so, Rodney, because it's like this: either they win or we win, and we're not in the business of losing, I don't think, and we don't want to be losing. And actually, it's for the future. It's for our children. It's for. I became a grandfather last year for the first time, Rodney. So I've got a granddaughter, and so I intend to do everything I possibly can to ensure that the globalist scam to strip us away from our humanity, Rodney, is defeated and beaten.
Yes, sir. And I think there's a lot of people, even you couldn't call them elite, but they've been some. I've watched this even in the sports world. I've watched top sports people just saying we're not doing this anymore. And some of them are multimillionaire sports people. I've watched the different sports entities drawing a line in the sand. So I'm actually smiling and just watching this backlash take place. And because, especially when they keep changing the rules, they keep moving the goalposts. So Fauci said, well, get the vaccine and you'll be okay. No, but you're still going to have to wear a mask. No, but you're still going to have to socially distance. Well, what was it? Mr. Finocchio, what was it? First of all, we had to get a vaccine, then we'd be fine. But now we still have to wear masks. Now we still can't hug. No. You got to get a second vaccine? Oh, you got to have a vaccine every year? That's not going to happen. It's not happening. So anyway, like I said, I have a great excitement and anticipation to what is about to happen. And I think we're going to see a lot of innovation. And I think we're going to see another, how can I say, reformation.
Well, Rodney, I think on that really positive note, I was just so keen to have you back on, because folks watching this and those who watch this in replay, there is positivity about, and Rodney's been very, very eloquent in expressing that, and also a sense of humor at the absolute lunacy of much of what passes for political theatre. So Rodney, a big thank you from me for coming on this. I know it's the first time you've been on this stream. I hope you'll come back on this stream with myself, so we can talk about these things as things roll out and develop and become more clear. But as I said, a very big thanks for being with us.
Anytime. And I'm going to have a new platform here in the next month that'll cover the whole of North America. And I want to put you on. I'm going to get you on. And I'm going to put you on at no cost to you. Put your program on to get it out to people. So we'll talk. We'll talk, my friend. You keep up the good work. And the UK is not going to go under. There's life in the old United Kingdom still.
Oh, yeah, Rodney, just to say that the British lion still has a bit of bite in it, and that bite will remain. We saw it over Brexit. Even despite all the propaganda, I believe that there's enough resistance we can rally around. But look, that's it, Rodney. Thank you again so much to have you. It's great to see you again, by the way. You're looking really well on it. Love your new studio setup. Thanks for being with us. Thanks, everybody, for being on the stream. I'll be back on Thursday night. Tune in at 8 o'clock then. And that's it from now. So good night, everybody. And thanks again, Rodney.